Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Triple Threat Comics YouTube channel. I'm your host, Ian Miller. Tonight, we welcome back a very good friend of mine. Please welcome Ray Jameson or DM Ray.
Good to see you, Ian. It's always nice to get on any stream and just talk to people. I'm an extrovert, so I'm having a good time just being here.
I'm glad to have you back, my friend. Last time when you came back, Ray, we were talking about your series Madcaps. They just had started issue 1. Now, it seems you're back with issue 2.
I am, and this is issue 2 of 3, and it's been a great time. I have never been on the creative side of a comic before. I've been a fan forever, and I'm really happy. It's been a really cool journey from getting the story out there to all of the talent that I've been able to cross paths with. It's just a cool experience to go through.
Yeah, especially when you being other creators that are going pretty much the same process that you're going through. Just creating something new, world building. With exciting new characters, new stories that you want to tell. Yeah, that has to be awesome.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I love just building characters and giving them drive and reason for doing things. And if you reverse engineer it, it looks very obvious. Excuse me. It looks very obvious on my end, but for the person reading it, you're going through that journey, and I have a lot of fun plotting that out for a person.
I can see why. Because again, you're creating worlds, you're creating new characters that people can relate to, and
Mhm.
you're just having fun with it.
Yes.
Because that's what this really is. You're just having fun, and hopefully somebody likes your sense of fun and your sense of storytelling.
Yeah. The end product is for me just to get the story done. I just want to express it, and if I'm getting some positive feedback, it's bonus.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, if I remember correctly from issue 1, you definitely did get positive feedback, and you really did create a fan base.
Yeah, I've got some good feedback. Overall positive. Um, the moving forward on this one, I had a drawing, a sketch contest. The winner, who his name is Nayar. I forget his last name off the top of my head. Apologies, Nayar, but he made a really cool picture. And Dan Kemp, who's colored like Civil War Spider-Man and Marvel Knights in your late 90s, early
Wow.
2000s, and not to forget over 100 issues of Spawn. He's coloring all of my work, my interiors and my covers and stuff, but he's going to color Nayar's work. So I was really happy to give somebody that opportunity to have an individual such as Dan, who is without a doubt world caliber of a colorist, to have them just merge talent. It's a really cool thing to be able to facilitate something like that. We've got lots of other cool stuff coming up. Some of it I can finally reveal. I revealed page 1 in colors, which I believe I shared with you. Um,
Yes, you did. I
the
think you
uh,
did. Yes.
the interiors are done by Victor Medina, rather, and Dan Kemp, of course, coloring. I only showed page 1, and man, I just want to spill the beans on everything, but I can't.
Well, of course not, because again, you want to keep the secrets, to get people to buy the book.
This is true. But I am definitely looking forward to sharing this. We're launching on the 1st. So that's how many days is that? That's 12. Today's Wednesday, 13 days from now. 2 weeks as
Oh.
of yesterday. We're launching on that Tuesday, April 1st. I promise it's not an April Fool's joke. But yeah, there you go. There's that's page 1 without any of the lettering. Micah Myers will be at lettering, just like Micah lettered my last issue as well. That page takes off right at the end of where issue 1 left off. It picks right up. So we have these our four main characters. They have intercepted some bandits who are smuggling a fictional drug known as weave. And these 4 friends are investigating. They're not quite sure whether or not this drug has something to do with a failed undead outbreak that they staved off in issue 1. Helping the guards, of course. The guards did the most of the work. But with that said, this picks up right here, like right off the page of the last page of the first book, and it goes on a nice little twist. I'm really enjoying people's anticipation on it. I've got a bunch of covers. If you're okay, I'll show off the covers that I'm going to be.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Let's start with. I'll open that and then go to present.
Okay.
There we go. Share screen. Share screen. Share window. Here's the main cover. So this is done by Kenny Calderon. Kenny, and of course Dan Kemp, who's colored this. It's just a well put together image. I love all of my covers. I try to have them depict something that's going on within the issue. So what you see here is the 4 of them. I can't say too much, but you can see they're walking into a path that has a lot of overgrowth, and they're led to find the home base of the distributor. And it's if an individual is going to have something illegal and a lot of content and a lot of money going through, well, it's obviously going to have some hired muscle, and that's all. I'll leave it at that in that respect. But Kenny and Dan, they're a great team on this, and I've got 4 variant covers. This first one here is limited edition. It's drawn by Jenna Stark. It's colored by Dave Kemp. That's Dan's brother, and the reason it's going to be limited edition is because it's also going to be metal foil, which is going to add to that stained glass effect. I think it's going to be real beautiful when it's done. Really looking forward to what that looks like, because I think that's really going to pop.
Yeah.
And again, in this depiction, this is Sarlacc, the dwarf. He's found a book, and I unfortunately can't say anything else, but this does happen in the story, which is really, really cool. Here we have Madcaps. He seems to be a fan favorite. If this story was to parallel that of Power Rangers, Madcaps is the equivalent of that 6th Ranger, or the original Green Ranger. He does a lot of cool stuff, but seldom does the big finishing blow. But everybody seems to like all the cool stuff he's doing. In this depiction, it shows him pulling Earth upward using his arcane abilities. So that's something we haven't seen Madcaps do yet. So it'll be real fun for people to see what's going on with this. Here we have Dunanini, the half dwarf, half gnome, and he's using his telescope. He's rigged it to blast raw arcana out of it. And he's surrounded by the undead, as already shown in issue number 1. Undead are something to do in the story of this. And lastly, I should say, let me go back. I've been missing names here. This was done by Rod Ramos Rodolfo of Brazil and colored by Dan Kemp. This one here was done by Russ Leach out in the UK. Now, if you like fantasy and sword and sorcery, you may like, he has a book out called The Atlantean. Issue 2 comes out soon, and it's based off of this one of the foundational stories which inspired the likes of Conan and many others. Really interesting art. It's well put together. I was fortunate enough to have Russ color, or rather draw something for me here. Dave Kemp colored it. It really came together real nice. And here we have the last one, which is of Chasgo, the blue-skinned elf. And this is his pet, Emix, which is a 3-eyed raven. And Jay Sloan, who put this together, I really like the body language, the emotion, without showing but not, if that makes sense.
It does.
If it wasn't for that pet sitting on his shoulder, one would consider him being lonely, but you don't know if he's lonely or just milling in his thoughts, or he has some type of solitude going on, that he just wants to be by himself. But Dave Kemp also colored this. I was impressed with what Dave Kemp did, because at the end of the day, it's kind of like, I guess the best way to describe it is I asked him to have this guy who was predominantly colored blue at nighttime. So I didn't give him much options to work with, but he still knocked it out of the park. I was just very impressed with how this finally looked when it was all done. I was really, really happy. Jay Sloan, in the first issue, there's concept art, and Jay Sloan did all the concept art in the bios of each character. And to this day, I believe Jay Sloan draws Chazgo here the best out of everybody. I usually don't pick favorites with art towards characters in specific, but without a doubt, Jay is the best with Chazgo. That is no slight at anybody else's depictions of Chazgo. It's just there's just a little something there. Jay definitely understands what I'm looking for with this guy. But unfortunately, I can't share any other art. But April 1st, you'll be able to back this. You can get a digital copy. You can get the physical. You can get the catch-up issue. You can get the catch-up tier where you can get issue 1 and 2. We have of all the art of the different covers over issue 1 and 2, the ones that look like paintings. We're going to be selling plush tapestries is what we're calling them. They're essentially blankets, but they look cool hanging off of walls. So anything that has a nice painted look, we're going to give you the opportunity to buy those and have them all like huge. And then also we have t-shirts of other covers that got a lot of energy to them. So currently, another thing we could do is, or I can say is each character, we are going to be selling a character sheet set. So you can play this in D&D. You could play out these characters if you wanted to. So I think when all is said and done, when people have a look at this Kickstarter, they're really going to enjoy what they're getting themselves into. That's for sure.
Absolutely. Especially with, obviously, the D&D enthusiasts.
Yes.
Because, again, this was D&D inspired.
Yes, it was. It was based off of the first homebrew campaign that I ever ran well over a decade. And the surrounding theme of this book is about, well, essentially, I started playing D&D just to hang out with my friends via webcam. And this story is basically how friends act around each other and how much you can like miss friends if you don't get to see them a lot. The older you get, the less opportunities you get to see your friends. But when you do, man, I really needed that. It was really good to see that person. I really enjoyed. I didn't know how much of a pick-me-up it was going to see my friend. All of those thoughts, those things. This book it's an homage to that very level of camaraderie, very deep, intimate level of camaraderie. And it's just told in a medieval fantasy setting through the medium of comic books. But I think every human being can relate to that level of camaraderie. As I mentioned, if you like sword and sorcery, fantasy, tabletop RPGs, this is definitely up your alley. And anything, if you just like a comic book that doesn't have 60 years of lore that you have to have memorized leading up to it, 3 issues, it all takes place over one night. And I'm telling you, when we get number 3 out and churning, there's big payoffs. I guarantee you they keep building off each other. It's not bigger and better. It's just, it keeps on building. It's like, if you ever had a bag of Doritos, most people can't stop eating until the bag's empty. You get that momentum going, right? Issue 3
Absolutely.
is the bottom half of the bag. You got to finish it now, It's good times.
Yes, absolutely. No, that's what I always liked about this comic was your description of it, and talking about camaraderies with your friends and all that, and it's very much true. It's very much true.
Yeah, I definitely am satisfied with people's reflections on it, and not just reviews. Just people say I liked, and usually the things they like, it's either very predictable or way like obscure. I wouldn't have anticipated. For example, there's a scene. Actually, while I'm talking, I'll look it up. In the first issue, I did a depiction of a scene where I just got to get, hold on. No. Let me find it. 30 seconds. Found it. I'm going to share my screen.
Okay.
Hold on. Share, or present in this case. Share screen. Share. Chrome tab. There it is. I will make sure.
Would you be able to tell me where you're going to pick up this fresh stuff?
No way, man!
You could save many lives here.
I'd rather die. Oi!
Death is a privilege, which you will not be getting today.
Are you crazy?
Go for a walk. I can't heal everything our large friend is about to deal out to you. You can either talk to our dwarven friend here, or you can talk to me.
The dwarf! The dwarf!
So one thing I got to disclaim, that was for last year's issue number 1. It said April 30th there. That was for 2024. For 2025, it's April 1st. I was saying before I showed that little snippet of that scene, Chazgo at the end that reveals his actual appearance, and the guy's scared of him because Chazgo's kind is considered very scary. they're a very untrustworthy bunch. With that said, after that all played out, and it was kind of a scene of good cop, bad cop, surprise, there's a worse cop. A lot of people are like, I like after how Madrakis and Chazgo bumped fists, because at the start when Sarlacc is speaking to this individual they're trying to get information out of, you can see in the background like Madrakis and Chazgo kind of let's do this, you know. And then after they have a level of okay, they understand how each other think, and little things like that. I really appreciate. One of my goals, and I've said this in other podcasts, my goal was I wanted people when they read it to feel like the world existed before. I wanted them to feel like there's a lot more going on in the world outside of what's going on amongst these four. And when the story's done, I want them to feel like that world keeps on going. So little things like at the beginning of issue 1, as you've read, Madrakis and Dunnan, as they're going into Ivywood, their hometown, Madrakis doesn't want to be there. And it's shown in a couple of different ways, including Madrakis saying, I'd rather be somewhere with my nose in a book, or the guards realizing who it is, but hearing his name, and then him saying, Ivywood's charges against me were dropped. Well, obviously there's a lot more going on there, and I wanted to leave that as something to show there's some life. Life has been lived here, and sometimes it's hard for readers to, you want readers to know certain things, and sometimes it's done cheaply. So, for example, if you have 2 brothers in an opening scene and you know nothing about these guys, how are you doing today, brother? Like, it's obvious the author is trying to just let the reader know something as opposed to having it naturally fold out. So in this case, yeah, Madrakis has some type of history with Ivywood. Maybe we'll hear about that in the future, maybe not, but it definitely feels like there's things going on.
Yeah, there has to be a constant struggle to, let the audience in on certain things, but not tell them fully.
Yes.
Rather have that build on in the separate issues.
Yes. Yeah, it's I take pleasure in it. I take pleasure in making sure a person understands something, and half of the time it's shown, it's not said. Or sometimes the really tricky ones is when you're actually speaking about this, but it isn't directly spoon-fed to the reader.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely a fan of watching things play out and how they goes. For example, revealing that big reveal there when Chazgo reveals who he actually is. in issue 1, it's narrated by Chazgo, and he says he's writing to somebody named Annette. He says, "I'm not proud of this, but I used my actual appearance to get the information we needed. Fortunately, it worked." Leading up to that point, you have no concept of what he is. You have no concept of why people are scared of him. The way the individual reacted to that, it was like Chazgo, some type of boogeyman, but there's no explanation for it. So now when a reader is reading anything about Chazgo, they're going to see, is there anything else to tie to that? They're going to be paying attention. I now have the reader in a healthy way hooked to that character. Tell me more. I want to know. And it's the equivalent of sometimes crossing the desert and having a small glass of water. It's not enough. You want more water. You're glad to have it, but give me more, kind of thing. And I really like stretching out a story in that respect.
Well, it makes the most sense, really, because again, it keeps the readers hooked. They want to know more about the characters as the story is going on, as the story unfolds. So, yeah, it's a smart commercial way to do it, and also gives you ideas to say, okay, here's what we learned so far in issue 1. How can I make the background story unravel in issue 2 and issue 3? Because I want to tell more about the characters, but without revealing too much until the end.
Until the time is ready, yes. Another thing I really like doing is taking my time showing abilities of characters. So as I mentioned, in this issue, you find out Chazgo has a pet, and it's very unnatural looking. It's got 3 eyes. It's got this very pale, this is a black bird, but it's pale. And I haven't given any context to it. So where did this come from? What's its origins? I've had a couple of friends that read the original script for all 3 issues, and a couple of friends, they said, I don't think Chazgo's on the level. He seems too mysterious, wouldn't be the word, kind of sketchy. Like he's always held back. Like in that first issue, when that outbreak starts, Chazgo says, I can't be seen fighting or my identity is compromised. In his human disguise, he's known as he's worked his way up the ranks. He's actually a representative of a noble. Well, he's known only as that. So if somebody sees him start casting magic out of his hands, okay, what else are you not telling us here? He can't leave that open. So instead, he runs off to get guards to help his other 3 friends. And another thing I really like is these characters, although they've got some cool signatures to them, they're not infallible. In fact, in the first half of issue 1, those 3 that Chazgo left to get help for, they almost die. They almost get overwhelmed by the undead, and they're saved by the guard. I've said this also in another podcast. Getting saved by town guard in a fantasy setting is the equivalent of Captain Kirk getting saved by a red shirt, But I really wanted to underline that there is gravity here. There is stakes. And when there's danger, people can relate to risk. People can relate to, is this a wise decision? People can relate to, am I really going to get through this challenge? Can I actually can I survive? And not necessarily with my life, but can I survive financially? Can I survive with my relationship, circle of friends, my job? Are these all the right decisions? And I wanted to have levels of gravity where people can say, well, I hope they live. Let's see what happens, right? And I think it's very important where it doesn't matter what an individual can do. You have something like a Superman. Well, their challenge is, how do I relate to the average human, and how do I not break anything, because everything's basically cardboard, and there's other variables like that, where in my character's case, even the big guy Madcaps, this large serpent-like humanoid, he's very hardy and he's a very strong individual. He's not a skilled fighter. That armor and that sword he wears, it's all ceremonial, and he wears it because he doesn't really know too much about his culture. He was hatched as an egg by humans and raised accordingly. He swings a sword hard. You don't want to be on the receiving end of him swinging a sword. But with that said, he would have to hit you for it to hurt. Doesn't mean he's a skilled fighter. He's not a mercenary. He's not a soldier. So, yeah, okay. He's definitely threatening, but these are individuals that are in the world. They're not running the world. Let's see what's going on around us, and hopefully we can keep our head down when we need to and not draw too much attention or too much threat and all of those variables playing out. I've been having such a fun time juggling all these dynamics.
Well, that's the best part of being a writer. That's the best part.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And yeah, the end product is just satisfying. Just satisfying watching them play out. How they interact came out very natural. It didn't feel forced. It didn't feel wooden or choppy or anything like that. It just flowed really nice. I was really happy with how the character's end result came.
Well, it's true. It really is true. When it comes to writing different characters, and also just saying, okay, how do I, incorporate real life decisions in this fantasy world?
Yes. And
Yeah.
that's another thing. Real life situations. It is a lot of see, nowadays it's very challenging. A lot of people are, and I'm not saying this is wrong. I'm saying it's not my thing. A lot of individuals are compelled to reflect reality too close, especially politics. It sneaks in there, and you got to have a good, healthy balance.
Yeah.
I personally, I like reflecting real world scenarios. Like I mentioned, there's illegal drugs in this. It's not pro or anti-drug. It just happens to have drugs in it. I'm not cudgeling the reader with good thing is good and bad thing is bad. I don't want to be that guy. What I would love to see is, what can people relate to with a dynamic like that? Well, maybe you're not involved in those kind of things at all, but you see it on the street. Maybe you hear about a friend's relative falling to it. Maybe you hear about many other things involved, and that can revolve around these dynamics. Rather, you can relate to that. And I think people reading this, it's the same thing. These things are going on, but at no point is there some type of stance on good thing is good and bad thing is bad. I think that's a very important thing that modern writers nowadays, such as myself, have to be very, very acutely attuned to.
Well, that's true, obviously, as well. Because very oftentimes you're just trying to tell a good story, and sometimes, in telling a good story, you'll attract, attention to, people who's like, you know what, I could definitely see parallels from this story to what's happening now,
Yeah.
and not really be affected by it. It's like, okay, I can sort of understand the lessons that these characters have taken on to handle this type of situation. Okay, how do I do that in real life? Because I don't have the superpowers and all that, but maybe they're inspiring me to be something positive.
Yeah. And how do people move if a bad thing is dealt to them? How do they continue to choose to do good? That's a really tough one. That's a classic Peter Parker scenario.
Exactly.
Speaking of Marvel, have you been watching the new Daredevil series?
I have not had the pleasure of watching it yet, but I've been hearing some good things about it,
So
especially with some of the storytelling.
yeah, it's very interesting. The one thing from an outside perspective, I said this on my last podcast, I have a little bit of minor concern. So as I was talking about earlier, politics can exist in stories, but you don't have to be trying to preach your politics to the reader. An outside perspective, this could be completely coincidence, and fingers crossed it is. Kingpin, it's a really cool concept, him getting elected as mayor. It kind of sits a little too close to home with American politics right now.
So
That could be completely coincidence. And the reason I keep wanting to disclaim that so hard is because that's a very cool concept, regardless of American politics right now. That's a really awesome concept. And then on top of that, it's very understandable people being volatile about somebody like that getting elected as mayor. I hope it sticks to being coincidentally close to what's going on. That way, you're going to have more people, regardless of their opinions on American politics. You're going to have a larger fan base of people that can relate to. How's it going? Speaking of Victor Medina, that picture you showed, Ian, he drew that, and he's doing all the interiors. Good to see.
Wow.
Yeah, good to see Victor. He's a great company. I'm really happy to have him on board. But again, I think this is a really cool concept. It's not about the politics. It's about existing. Well, these things are happening in the world. It doesn't have to be focus, but it's cool if it does exist. I hope Marvel sticks to that with the rest of this series. It's a very strong coincidence. I hope it continues to just be like that.
Yeah. Well, I agree. And in the comics, Kingpin actually does become the mayor of New York for a bit. So I think they're doing the, just following that storyline. It is a coincidence, I believe.
Yes, I think
not really reflecting on what's happening in our reality. But yeah, it's a coincidence. But I think it's great in storytelling. The Kingpin being mayor, because that creates a lot of conflict between the lead characters, particularly Matt. And trying to balance his way in, his world, which is closing, very slowly.
Yes.
Especially with Kingpin sitting at, the
head
mayor's
honcho
office.
I really liked how Kingpin can now say things like, he mentions once he's elected, we don't need a guy with a skull on his shirt shooting guns. We don't need somebody dressed in a spider uniform. Like, he can actually, because Marvel has all its rights back. I strongly, I liked the whole, you know what? I can't, you haven't seen it yet, so I can't say, but there's I apologize. So I won't say anything else. That's all little stuff. I was going to give something huge away, but I'll zip it.
Well,
all I'll say without giving anything away. There's a dynamic involving White Tiger and how that all plays out, especially when it's completed. It was holy cow. These guys go hard and they don't care, and it's awesome.
Well, I'll tell you what, when I do watch the series in its completion, you and I will have a talk afterwards.
Done.
Saying,
absolutely.
I can't believe this happened. I can't believe this happened.
Yes. Yeah. It's a good time so far. I'm only, I think episode 4 just came out yesterday. Enjoying 1 to 3. That's for sure.
Yeah. I loved it, the Netflix series. I was very sad that they discontinue that, because they were just scratching the surface. But now it's come back, and now it has a back to basics type of feel. I think.
Well, the whole reason, the theory behind why Netflix canceled it is basically Disney says, "Hey, we own the rights, and we want to incorporate him in other ways, but he can't be on Netflix, so he has to be canceled and dormant for X amount of time." They're like, cancel, but they kept on showing Matt Murdock in other movies. It was obvious they wanted to hold on to Charlie Cox, and eventually they now have Born Again. Apologies. I'm happy with how it's playing out. One thing I would love to see, because it's New York, this world, everybody's world exists now together in this Marvel Cinematic Universe. I wouldn't mind seeing like a Spider-Man for 15 minutes in that episode. Maybe stopping a car from falling on some kids that Matt could not stop, or something like that. Last we saw Luke Cage, he was running his own little crime syndicate, his own little empire. I would love to see Kingpin like about face and, hey, we're going to take you down. And then someone like Luke Cage saying, well, this is kind of hypocritical in it. Son of a gun, sweet Christmas.
That would be fantastic. And Jessica Jones just appearing, working a case, and she runs into Matt then saying, hey, how you doing? Like,
Yeah.
I'm just doing the same old thing.
And I know Iron Man gets a lot of flack as of late, but one thing I just want to give one shout out to, that scene where Luke Cage and Iron Fist, or as I like to call him, Power Man and Iron Fist from back in the day,
Yeah.
when those two work together and they go into that facility with all the criminals working in there, and it starts with Danny Rand blasting the door out with his fist, and those two working together, man, that's what it was supposed to be all about. And I hope, and I know people are not a fan of Danny Rand right now, but I hope there's a heroes for hire scenario in Daredevil Born Again. I don't care. You can hate the actor, it's fine, I get it, but Marvel's New York deserves either
This
Daredevil crossing paths with those two, or Spidey. Apparently Spider-Man 4 is going to have a lot of Daredevil in it. I want to see all this stuff. Apparently another thing in Spider-Man 4 is apparently it's going to be kind of like Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. So there's speculation of like Iceman and Firestar showing up, which I'm all for. I think that would be really cool.
Yeah.
The girl from Stranger Things, the redhead, Sadie, what's her name? She's apparently officially on for Spider-Man 4, and the speculation is she's Firestar or Jean Grey. I think she'd make an awesome Firestar.
Yeah, absolutely. She's a terrific actress. If you guys hadn't seen Stranger Things, but if you haven't, where have you been?
Yeah,
It's been on for years.
this is true. Literally years.
Yeah.
That was one of the first good shows that Netflix released, as opposed to showing old stuff all the time.
Yeah.
Then, of course, when YouTube started Cobra Kai and Netflix bought that back, I loved Cobra Kai, especially that last season. That was surprisingly well put together. I definitely enjoyed it. The last couple episodes are very condensed, but in that case scenario, it made sense just the way the story went. It was just kind of a whirlwind. And I really like how Johnny Lawrence got to slay a couple of ghosts, not one, but a couple. And it didn't feel like it was forced. I never felt like this was like a Shakespearean setup. Okay, this is where everybody starts dying or something like that. It actually felt like everything was put to bed in although condensed, it was a natural way. And I definitely appreciate that.
Yeah. Now, folks, we're actually talking about all these great shows and movies because these are great examples of what storytelling can be when it's done right, especially with the character developments, and also just in terms of, not too much nostalgia, because some of these shows do, obviously address that, but still keeping it fresh and modern. And that's always the trick for us writers to do, keeping it fresh and keeping it modern.
Yes. Yeah. In my story, a good example of that, we already talked a bit about Madrakis, this large individual over 6.5 feet tall. He clears 350 pounds in body weight. I hate the trope of big guy equals strong, dumb, and nothing good for nothing more than meat shield, basically. Yeah. And like Madrakis, his most powerful thing out of everything I've just described of him, the coolest thing about him is actually his brain and his passion for the arcane. He's an amateur level mage, if you will, and he dabbles with spell work. This is a big, large, hulking individual. In the first issue, they get intercepted by a zombie that jumps out from around the corner of a door, and Madrakis catches it by the throat and sets its head on fire. Every time I describe that, I have to laugh. And then he just tosses the carcass aside, just says, "Less mess this way." Well, that's cool. You don't anticipate that. Like, here's a large guy. Oh, he's going to crush his throat with his hand. No, he's going to hack him down with his sword. No, he's going to tear him in two. No, he's just going to impose his will on the thing, and its head's going to set on fire. In the end, that's it.
Simple enough. Simple enough.
Yes.
I am very excited for you. So the Kickstarter starts at April 1st, and no, as we keep saying, is not an April Fool's Day joke. Okay. So get that out of your head.
Yeah, somebody told me that for the video that in the Kickstarter, for the first day, it should just be a Rickroll because it's on April 1st. April Fools, you know. But it will not be a Rickroll. Yeah, it's the real deal.
Yeah, and that's what fans come to expect, the real deal, and
Yes.
you gotta get it.
Yeah, it's going to be a good time. I'm definitely looking forward to being able to like talk about all the fine details of this. It's crazy how much I have to bite my tongue half the time. But I mean, the end result is making it worth it. So it's not worth complaining over. That's for sure.
Absolutely. Ray, I can't thank you enough for coming back on here to share us with so many goodies. Stuff obviously you can't talk about because, again, we want people to get on the Kickstarter and buy the book.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Especially all the little extras that you got on there. So that's going to be exciting.
Yes.
And as always, I'm going to do my best to help promote you and promote the product.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much. One thing I would like to say to anybody watching, if you're not able to follow me on anything but one thing, that one thing, if you go on Kickstarter right now, look up Madcaps #2. It's all one word, the Madcaps. But if you just type in Madcaps, one word, there you'll find the pre-launch. If you click on notify me on launch, it doesn't cost you a thing, and you will be helping sway the algorithm in the project's favor. That would be very beneficial. There it is there. You can see Madrakis there holding his sword and casting some arcane awesome. But if you sign up for that, we're getting close to 100 followers, and it's just very flattering every time I see that many people have some type of level of interest in this. But when it launches, you'll be able to get 1 and 2. I guarantee you, by the time #3 comes up and you're able to read that, it will be well worth the wait, and the satisfaction is right up there. That's for sure.
Absolutely. So check out Madcaps issue 2 on April 1st.
Yes, sir. All of April, aka tax season, as I like to jokingly say. So hopefully people get some money back, and one issue on here is probably going to cost less than dinner for 2 out at a restaurant. So dinner for 2 at a restaurant is roughly maybe 2 hours. Maybe that's a little assertive, but sitting and talking. But you can spend a good hour reading one of these issues, or you can buy both, and you can thoroughly enjoy where this story goes. I can guarantee you, anybody that has friends that they don't get to see enough, anybody that likes swords and spell casting and monsters, if you like gnarly fighting, if you like there's a little, I shouldn't say gore as much as it is like just brutal combat. This has all of the things listed above, and it's told as a comic book. You can put it down and read, or it's the floppy you can put down and read again another time. And if you don't have the real estate to store books, there's a digital option, and there's so much more. But notify me on launch, and I guarantee you there's going to be at least something for you on that page.
Well said, Ray. Well said.
Thank you.
Okay, we're getting just to that point, folks. But before we actually do go, as always, I like to plug in my own stuff. As many of you know, Indie Planet has Codium Hunter issues 1 through 3.
Right
we
on.
Currently are working. Yeah, we're currently working on issue 4 right now. So I'm very excited about that. Hopefully, it's going to be released fairly soon. We just have to work on a few things. My inker Enrique Lopez and myself.
Right on.
Yeah, because we want to deliver the best product that we can.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
And for those of you following my storefront, tpublic.com, I actually now have, a couple of things, especially since Easter's coming up. There is really an Easter Mystery Part 1, which means you're going to get it's going to be a 3-part t-shirt design. where little Ian is following the footsteps and trying to find out who's, placing these eggs. So
Right.
fun to look forward to that.
Awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And one last final thing. Today I just listened to a couple of tracks of the fan audio drama that I wrote within maybe the last year, which was based on a fan comic that I worked on with a couple of friends of mine called Batman Enigma, which is the unofficial third Batman film directed by Tim Burton.
So like a Tim Burton, Michael Keaton scenario.
That's right.
Very
That's right.
cool.
Yeah, involving Robert Williams as the Riddler and, Nicolas Cage as the Scarecrow. I've heard
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
I heard the last two chapters today. I got to tell you, I'm loving every minute of it. I can't wait for you guys to
That's great.
listen to it. And you can only listen to it on New Verse Creative, which you can find on where we listen to your podcasts or just on YouTube. So just type in New Verse Creative.
I'm just imagining Nicolas Cage being like, I've got this gas and Bruce, it's making some people really weird. And here, watch what happens. And he just starts going.
Right. When it comes out, I'm going to send you the link so you can listen to it.
I'm all in.
All right.
That's great.
All right. Absolutely. Well, folks, I'm Ian Miller, and this has been Triple Threat Comics YouTube channel. Have a good night.